Good morning, friends, and welcome to Quick Thoughts Devotions. This week I'd like to take a look at a subject that seemingly is controversial these days, and that is simply this: the purpose of the Christian life in the church. Or rather, my friends, that there is a purpose for the Christian life in the church. Now, I've heard, and no doubt you've heard, people make statements similar to say that they could live as well in or out of a church, that they could serve God and worship Him as well out of a church body, as well as if they were participating in the membership of a church body. Now, my friends, that's not the biblical design, and I just hope to show you that this week in a few short segments of Scriptures. Truth be told, one of the most glorifying things in this life, that God gets the most glory out of, is to see a saved individuals, truly born again, worshiping Him in concert with brothers and sisters in a local church. My friends, let's take a look at the importance of the local church in Scriptures. Turn with me, if you will, to Acts chapter 2. We'll read just a couple verses this morning to take our thoughts. Acts chapter 1, starting in verse 41. So those who received His word were baptized, and they were added that day about 3,000 souls. And they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and fellowship, to the breaking of bread and the prayers. And for sake of time, I'll skip to verse 47. Praising God and having favor with all the people, and the Lord added to their number day by day those who were being saved. Now, my friends, this morning I just want to show you what is the pattern of the New Testament. Now, in the Old Testament, we find references to the congregation of God's people, speaking of the nation of Israel. That's the way that God's presence on earth was shown in the Old Testament times, was through the nation of Israel, through those tribes. The prophets would speak to them in those groups. But in the New Testament, Jesus came and initiated a new way, that is, the way or the manner in which God chooses to be visible on earth during this time. And that's local assemblies. We find here in Acts chapter 2, of course, the famed day of Pentecost. In that first verse we read, verse 41, there were 3,000 souls converted or saved that day. And that's amazing. It's miraculous and it's glorious. But my friends, what does it say about them? In verse 41 it says, they were added 3,000 souls. And then what did they do? Well, first, who were they added to? Those converted souls, those saints who were already formed together into a body that met together to worship, to study, to preach. And what does it say they did? They continued on in that pattern. They met together with other saved people regularly. They ate together, they studied together, they worshiped together, they prayed together, they continued in the apostles' doctrines together. My friends, what were they doing? They were participating, fellowshipping in a local body of believers. Now, my friends, I know people get hung up sometimes these days about over-organized religion and this and that, and truth be told, we won't find church houses here the way that we see today. We won't find perhaps the exact structure of membership the way we have today, but I'll say this: you won't find in the New Testament, I challenge you to look for it if you disagree, but you won't find God leading people to salvation and then to not be a part of other believers' lives. My friends, it's just not that way. God's pattern for us, and a glorious one it is, far beyond anything that we could conceive ourselves, is that we join ourselves, that He adds us to local bodies of believers. My friends, if you're not in a Bible teaching, preaching, practicing church, I exhort you, I encourage you, I challenge you, I beg you to seek one out and join yourself to it. My friends, for the Christian, that's God's pattern, adding you to the body that you can continue in studying and worshiping and fellowshipping and participating in this fellowship that the New Testament calls church.